Now today it looks like we're going to have a really special day. The original plan today was we're going to take a ride on the RD. Well, the weather went south. It's raining all day. Then we had some unexpected things on a honey-do list come up. That made that an easy decision. And then Vlad called me and said he's able to make it today. He's got a little repair he wants me to do on some carbon fiber parts. So looks like it's going to be a very unpredictable day. And to be honest, this time of year, I really don't like working on motorcycles if I don't have to. But of course, for our friends, we go the extra mile anytime. And Vlad has been better than good at going the extra mile, getting me helmets and tires and chains and whatever. So it's my turn in the barrel today. And we'll see what he gets here or what we got to do for him. But that original plan, I got the bike all ready yesterday, topped off the 2-stroke oil. Did a full valve adjustment, checked the cam chain, it was tight. Well, that's the things you don't have to worry about. The only thing with this bike you got to worry about is shutting the gas off. If you don't shut the gas off, sometimes it does flood out. I guess those old Mikuni carburetors, 44 years old or whatever they are. Well, who knows? It's an adventure to ride. And a couple more little details on our FZR restoration. I'm going to finish that project up. And we were already dreaming about our RD restoration. Oh man, it's already things floating around in my head of what to do. That's coming come fall. But in the meantime, we got a whole summer of riding ahead of us. And it's our hope that you enjoy sharing the rides with us, sharing our friendships and the things we all do, basically the harassing of each other up at Head Perry's and on Bear Mountain. And most of all, whenever we can get together and have 2-stroke days. And they're rare, but when we have one, they're memorable. So as always, we never starve the fish, never starve the birds. Never. Just ask those fish, they'll tell you. And because we've had a lot of rain, we had the springtime of this year, so much rain, unbelievable. But the garden is really starting to shape up now, really starting to come into its own. And every morning we do our perp walk out here and pick out some weeds and some different things. And I'm actually, this year, I noticed something that most people wouldn't care about. This year I'm growing some plants from seeds. But this is the kind of day it is as I'm waiting for Vlad to get here. You can see I'm in my version of the lazy boy here on the porch. And it did stop raining, but it's not a riding day, so we are just hanging out, relaxing, and I'm hoping it's not going to be a major thing we can't fix in one day for Vlad.
I tried to figure out with Adrian. I said, you know what, I can't figure out, I got to take this off.
Yeah, so Vlad stopped.
The left side clip broke.
Now what is this, from a BMW?
Yeah, it's from my HP2 Sport.
Okay, this is from an H2 Sport. Okay, so both sides broke though.
No, just one side. Oh yeah, both sides.
No, it cracked.
Yeah,
oh my
both
God.
sides.
That's unbelievable. This is a nicely made part, but Jesus.
I guess it's not meant for New York roads. That's what it is.
Not meant for you. I think the roads have anything to do with it. You and me are up on equipment. Wow. Okay, so I can make some carbon fiber parts in there.
Yeah, just I guess.
And then I'll fill this in. See, this is going to be a, well, look, I'll
you fill it in. Even if you make this hole smaller, I'll tap it and I'll drill it.
You could borrow the reamer and
I have the reamer.
Oh, you got it. Exactly. See, oops, hold that up. See, the best thing is I'll take the power sander and make this rough.
Right, and you put a couple of coats.
Then this carbon fiber's got to go out here.
If you have to, you don't have to.
Yeah, I have enough for this. I thought you needed to do a whole piece.
No, I knew you have enough.
Yeah, I got scraps.
That's for me.
Okay, and this part is cracked.
Right here.
Okay. Oh my God, these things are so delicate.
And also.
Okay, so I could fix.
Yeah, just I guess.
I got to peel some of that back.
Yeah, you can cut it off.
And where's the other? Oh, this piece here. We'll squeeze.
This piece, no, just take this off.
Pull it off right now. If you break it, let you break it.
We got a little piece of pliers, like thin needle nose.
Yeah, up there. He's going to crack the whole fairing. Yeah, I know it. No. That's why it's your part. Oh, I like the way this guy works. If you went to dental school, You ever see the little shop of horrors? This is the Vlad's little shop of, the Bimota shop of horrors. You can pull that away because this is of no value. It's not sticking to anything. And you always, okay.
I don't want to break the shit.
No, don't break it any worse. Jesus. This is all reinforcements we put on over the years.
Yeah, but
over the time. This is not a... Oh, it's aluminum. Oh.
That's what it was.
That's why. This is a part I didn't make.
You know,
I don't think so.
No, this is, remember, it was there before.
Yeah, we went over it with carbon fiber.
So if we can, if you have...
Squeeze this down shut.
No. If you have what you call it.
What?
Dremel. Just to cut this piece like this.
How do you... Wait, I'll cut it right now. Bring it in here. You should be able to bend that up now. No? Okay. Anybody with a toothache out there while we got the Dremel tool out? Hey, you got it. There we go. And what do you think? This stuff just comes from Italy, too skinny, too cheesy?
It is.
Or? It's very thin. This is way thinner than an FZR.
It's very thin.
I mean, look, it's like paper.
That's what everybody complains about.
A lot of people, these things crack. You're not the only one.
That's what it is.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's an expensive motorcycle, too. So, we're going to work on this tomorrow. It's late tonight. Vlad's got to get back to the city. We know we're going to reinforce this for sure. Make a patch for the lower part and a patch as one. It's a good job.
What?
I know these parts are expensive. How much do you think that Bimota part is worth?
Well, you can find one for about 200 something.
100 bucks? 200 bucks?
200 bucks, some from
yeah. Yeah.
I just
I know it's not, and you got to find them too.
I can find one.
So I took an impression of these two holes with the paper because we're going to fill these holes in and then re-drill them, fill it with carbon fiber. And then I want to have this pattern, and I guess that well, I'll check that they're the same. You know, knowing it's a BMW, Germans, they probably made 1/8 of an inch bigger or smaller or different than some way. Okay, well.
And the rear brake caliper was locked.
Oh. The bleed hole in the master cylinder froze up?
It did not lock completely, but it was closed. That my rear disc brake was hot. So I sat there for 10 minutes. I checked the brake. They looked like the brakes got released. So I didn't use the rear brake at all. I rode home. The brake disc was fine.
Happened on my RD too.
So I wasn't touching the rear brake.
The master cylinder, the bleed back hole froze, and so it just got hotter and hotter.
I'm just going to change the whole thing. I'm going to change the...
Now Vlad knows the secret to getting things fixed around here. Actually, he got to sit on the yellow bike, and because it's with the lowering links, it's beautiful to sit on. Of course, for anybody, even for me. But he's got to confess up to Karen now. Karen's going through the second part of her physical therapy, and pretty much everybody we know has similar problems. So this day ends, and what it's going to do is going to give me some time to think about how exactly I want to do this, especially that tail section part. That's going to be a little bit tricky to try to get it exactly the way we want it, but I'm sure tomorrow we'll work on it. Look at that robin over there. Look at that robin. He's in my garden. So say goodnight to the fish. Hey, please feed us. Maybe we'll feed you one more time. Maybe I'll eat one more time. Anyway, it was good seeing Vlad, and we'll straighten out his bike in the next couple days. So this morning I woke up thinking I'm going to get a ride on the RD today. I had it all set up. Clouds have rolled in. The temperatures dropped, and it looks like a day we're going to be doing some work on Vlad's BMW. So I just wanted to explain to people that might not understand this. Usually in the summer, I set up what is our workbenches for riding. Well, unless we have to rescue somebody, and in this case, of course, it's Vlad. But I had a night to think about this, and let me just share what I think is the answer here. So the first thing, before I even start a repair, I want to figure out, why did the part break to begin with? Was it poorly designed, poorly manufactured, all of the above, or just abuse, neglect. Now, what I thought of overnight, and I wanted to explain, probably, it's like when you reconstruct an airliner after it crashes. What has happened here is these bolts, I'm going to guess, pretty good guess too, these 4 bolts were at one point were tight. At some point in time, these bolts got loose from vibration. Don't forget, this is a big twin and a very expensive bike. Let's be honest about it. This should not have happened. But anyway, when these bolts get loose, this starts vibrating, and it's a phenomenon that happens in aviation, in motorcycles, and anything. It beats itself to death, and as it beats itself, it starts wanting to pull. It's doing this. This wants to fall. By the way, this is a heavy part. This, even though it's carbon fiber, baloney, this thing is a couple of pounds. This starts pulling down, and it pulls through. It didn't break. See what happened here? This did not break a piece out. It beat itself out like a jackhammer. So now to compensate for that, I want to make this so it never happens again. And actually, the best way to do this would be to ensure when this part is put back on that these bolts are always whatever the torque setting is. Because once this top bolt gets loose, picture what happens. Once that top bolt, it's bolted in place, the top bolt gets loose, this drops a little bit. Now when it drops a little bit, it starts doing that. And every time you hit a bump, it did this thing of tearing it to pieces. So anyway, I'm going to treat these 2 parts totally separately for the repair. So what I thought about doing, first step on this is going to be to clean, super clean this whole area. Super clean this whole area. I'll back mask some of this so I don't get any of the repair material on there. I'm going to have to get some carbon fiber. I made a template to re-drill the holes. And any repair like this, if you didn't know why see, that's why the bottom one didn't beat itself to death. When this is doing, and it's jumping up and down like that, it's just chewing out one little piece at a time. So I really feel confident that we know why this happened now. But the cure will be not so much fixing this, repairing it. We can repair that, but making sure the top bolts never get loose again. I would even think about some other, Glock nutting them, or I don't know how you can get in here on this bike, but they have these little clip nuts. I would even want to put an extra nut, a locking nut behind it or something. But anyway, that's up to Vlad. Vlad's a good mechanic. He knows what he's doing with that stuff. But what a shame. And I imagine from looking at this part that it's not a cheap, and what's a BMW thing? In BMW, the toilet paper in a bathroom is expensive. So anyway, we will do our best to try to fix this so it will not break again. But even that is no guarantee. And I'll go into detail about how I think I can do this the best. Always, any repair, anywhere, any place, anytime. Step 1, simple green. Good for cleaning mirrors too. Want to clean whatever grease or residual wax is on here. But hey, I've done a lot of aviation related things for model planes where why did a wing break? Why did a control system fail? In fact, when I used to design the control systems, the belt cranks and horns for model airplanes. I always made them a lot stronger than they had to be. And I'd always have somebody say, I can make that a little bit lighter and a little bit skinnier and a little bit this or that or whatever. And you know what? I always made it a little bit on the heavy side. Just for this reason. But that's a very common thing, what happened here. Now, I would guess if you put this part on, if you could, put it on upside down, these bolts would have failed and these won't. So, but we're going to try our best to figure out how to do this. And it looks like, first off, what it looks like is there's a finish on here, and it looks like it's we want to roughen this up, of course. First, I'll get some prep oil on here. I want to back mask this first and then roughen this up. You cannot really put on a shiny surface like this, no matter what glue, CA, epoxy, polyester resin, it's not going to stick real well. To get it to stick real well, it's got to have a tooth, and we're going to put that tooth in with sandpaper. What I want to do, I've got some 50 grit paper. I want this really to be rough, and I want to get all that shiny finish off. Now once the idea is to get the finish off, but not make the material any thinner than it already is, especially up here. So now I've got this side roughed in. I'll do the other side. I'm not going to do the back yet. I have a plan of how I want to do this. I think it'll work out fine. I'm happy that I had time to think about how I wanted to do this overnight, because a job like this, sometimes just figuring out how to do it and make it as efficient as possible. Well, this is going to be, there's no easy way to figure this out other than to just cut a piece. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to do this side of it with CA. This is the side that you're going to not see, but I can't make this, if I make this side a lot thicker, what's going to happen is the body fit that this goes in here, I assume, is not going to be real pretty. So I don't want that either. So what I want to do is I want to CA on this piece. And I think that'll be fine. Cut this right in half, in fact. And then the back part of it, I'm going to use a structural epoxy and maybe 3 layers of carbon. Yeah, that'll be just fine. So just figuring out this matrix of stuff, because where this is going to want, if this bolt ever gets loose again, it's going to want to beat itself to death. Now, a really good way to do this, but I'm not sure how this bike goes back together again. Obviously I don't have one in my collection here. Would be to epoxy in a washer in the back of this and then put the carbon over it, but then it makes this way thicker. Not sure those speed nuts, those are going to fit on it. I don't want to make this, I think the carbon will be fine as long as Vlad keeps these top bolts tight. And if it happens again, it's going to be because this bolt got loose. So this is Brodak Thick CA. And what I'm going to do is just put a complete generous amount on this. Let it get in position. And actually the only piece of this that really is going to matter is this piece of this gap that's missing. I want to get a perfectly good saturation on that. Give that a minute to dry. Now once that one is dry, what I can do is try to hold this horizontal. Just put a little more CA on here to seal this. And then before it kicks off, just before it kicks off, which is about now, what this does, it makes little carbon fiber dust that embeds in it, makes what like cement or concrete would be, and makes it even stronger. Okay, so now we have one side that we can work from the back, and I'll do the other one off camera. We can work from the back and fill this whole gap in and put some carbon fiber going edge to edge. It'll make this even stronger in the final product. Now I know for sure this side you don't see, so I'm just already thinking how I can build that up a little bit. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to spot these holes. I don't want these holes to disappear and then I'll never find where they are. I want to maintain where they are, but this one I'm going to fill with carbon fiber in the back. So for right now, I'm just going to spot these out with a Dremel tool. Now what'll happen when Vlad puts this part back on, he could remount the top hole first, because there'll be epoxy or paint and whatever in there. And once he gets that opened up, and then just run the reamer through the bottom hole so it's a tight fit. What you don't want to have is that this has got any clay. You'd like this to be glued in place, in fact. It's that when it's loose, that top bolt gets loose and it starts vibrating, that's when you have this problem. Now the next step is to roughen up the back of this. We have a hole spotted, and this, we want the back roughed up so we get a good bond. What's going to happen, I want to put at least 3 layers of this on. I'm afraid if I put, you know, if we didn't have a thickness issue, I could put 10 layers on. The problem with doing it that way, that nut is not going to fit if I make this too thick. So rather than do that, trying to come up with a better solution here, jigging these parts up is always part of the problem too. So what I decided to do is, rather than do this with CA, I will make a batch of structural epoxy. It's West Systems. I'll show it up on, maybe I'll just show it up on camera. The structural epoxy will be a little bit stronger, and since we don't need this right now this afternoon, we will have to let it dry overnight. I think that'll be the most efficient way to do this without making a part overly thick. And I'm going to just try starting with 3 layers of this. Again, in aviation related things, when you figure out the weight of things, which you don't do on a motorcycle almost never, or you do it in just a crude way, it doesn't even matter. What really happens is you'd like the weight of the cloth and the weight of the resin to be pretty equal in the end result. Well, we're going to be able to fill this up nice. This will be fine. Okay, so the next step of this is going to be, I roughened this all up with 50 grit paper. Where the little piece is missing, I'm going to cut up little scraps of carbon fiber and just pack them down in there. When I put this together, I'm going to mix up the structural epoxy next. Alright, this is the resin that we're going to use, and it's a structural epoxy. It's also thixotropic. Thixotropic means when you're done mixing it up, and it's a 2-to-1 ratio, when you're done, you could paint it on a wall and it doesn't run down like paint would if you put too much on. So being thixotropic, it'll stay in position, I hope, for the day that it has to dry. Once this is on with the carbon fiber, this will have to dry overnight before we go to the next step. A couple of things to keep in mind. This epoxy, let me get a little paper towel here. This epoxy is not the same, get another one. And it's not the same as what you buy in Home Depot or Lowe's. This is a structural epoxy. It's got to be treated just a little bit differently. It is extremely strong when it's mixed correctly. It's mixed 2-to-1. And it has its own properties of that it's got to be spread. And well, I'm going to just try to demonstrate this. See, this is why I think this is the best way to do this. The CA would have been a lot more convenient to do this. But on the other hand, I'm hoping this, see, I'm hoping, the biggest hope is that top bolt never gets loose again, in which case this is never going to happen again. But we know the reality of motorcycles vibrate. People forget to tighten things, or they just loosen up even after you tighten them. We know that, or whatever. So we always deal with the real world, not the pretend world where nothing ever goes wrong. So now you've probably watched, and I'm sure people that are interested in this kind of stuff, the people that do this for a living have a lot more sophisticated equipment than I have. They have a lot, well, more expensive equipment, I guess would be another way of doing it. But the bottom line is the epoxy is still the same epoxy, and it cures with the same strength. Now, I'm going to lay 3 layers of this in here, and I wanted to show how I do this to get the epoxy to come up through that carbon fiber. A little bit of heat is always your friend when you're dealing with epoxy. But this still will have to dry overnight. There's no way this is not going to dry overnight. Now, just to make sure I'm not missing anything here, I'm going to put even more on this. Again, we'll trim this and sand it and do all that. It'll be at least 24 hours, so this is going to have to sit. And I'll jam some epoxy at the end, some carbon right at the end there. And once you see how to do one side of this, you can pretty much figure out the other side's going to be the same. Of course, the best thing on any of these repairs, and I'm thinking 3 layers is going to be enough. Because here's the problem. If you break 3 layers of this, if that bolt gets loose, I don't think even 3 layers is going to help. I'm not sure, but I think a locking nut would be a good idea. I'm sure Vlad's already thinking of other things too. He's got an engineering mind of sorts. And believe me, if you go back over the videos, I've repaired some stuff of Vlad that was really unrepairable. Those Benelli parts, the last time he had his track day accident, some pretty sophisticated repairs there. You know what? I'm going to put one extra one on there. I don't know why I'm a coward, I guess, is the bottom line. Let me get one here. I have plenty of it. Since I'm probably going to sand a lot of this off in the final, there'll be a lot of sanding and shaping at the very end of this. But this epoxy, I've used it on aircraft stuff. It is really good. Again, I want to make sure those parts are saturated. I don't have any gaps in them. I think that's going to do it. Now normally you have about a 45-minute window to work with this, which we're not close. When you're doing a big part, it's a problem. You want to get all loose hairs off, even though it doesn't matter. Just make it neater. But tomorrow when we come back to this project, this will be ready to sand. And by the way, I used a lot of this on the FZR repair of those panels, which I'm not so sure the amount of work I did on those panels that you know, I didn't save money in the end. But it's not a question of saving money. The best way to save money is just don't have a motorcycle. And it allowed me to show some of the techniques I've used for quite a long time. Too long. I'm getting long in the tooth. I remember funny story, when we were down in Texas and we got to visit that gentleman's, thanks to Bill Rutherford and Richard Oliver, that gentleman's Spitfire. And we asked him if he's going to restore another one, and he said he's getting long in the tooth. And that refers to horses whose teeth never stop growing. So when they have long teeth, they're old. Anyway, okay, I'll do the other side off camera. No more jokes. And as you can imagine, now when you see the professional videos on TV, they're wearing white suits and gloves, and there's nothing dripping on the floor. In the real world, this is what it looks like. Okay, now that's going to dry overnight. There's no no chance we're going to be able to work on this and probably be to our advantage. We have the holes spotted. See, if I didn't do that, it'd be impossible to find those holes again accurately. So this is the side that I thought needed a little more carbon fiber. I put one extra piece on there, so we actually have 5 on one side, on the side that looked the thinnest. Anyway, what's going to happen now, that's going to have to dry overnight. We'll come back to work on this next time we have time for a work session. And there's no telling when that might be. But I hope you enjoyed this video and enjoy watching this mess come to fruition here. Anyway, we can repair these parts, but it's really a labor of love, that's for sure. And we still have the fairing to do the next session too. So again, thanks for watching.